what do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring people to be better, live better, love better, laugh better every day of their lives. Go to skymint.com for location information and daily specials. Chances are you live within half an hour of a Skymint, less than that, probably even 10 minutes. There are 3 in the greater Lansing area. And our Wednesday night show, brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. That's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, sort of on the edge of Lansing and East Lansing. You can win a trip to Vegas from our friends at Front 43 and Cask & Company by having lunch there. That's all you got to do. And when the server brings the tablet around and you fill out your tip and your all your information, just put in your phone number on the receipt, and you're automatically registered for 3 days, 2 nights in Las Vegas, $1,000 worth of Vegas comps. Really cool deal. And, of course, you know, it's just a great place to watch games, MSU games. They got MSU specials, happy hour specials. Front 43 and Cask & Company. They're just north of Frandor and East Saginaw and Lansing. Jason, how you doing? Riding right up into my rectum, and it was painful.
Hey, Graham. How are you? Out of all the Wednesday shows we could have missed, we had to do this one.
I think it's a good one to do. No?
Well, yeah, of course, but I mean just after the fact, after a 17-point loss, after Michigan made the Final Four, apparently, after the win last night.
True, yeah.
Those guys are acting like they're going to the Final Four. It's like...
That's the ultimate sign of respect. But I also think that there is something to, I mean, they are playing for their NCAA tournament lives, which I don't think they've completely gotten there yet. And that was a really big step toward getting there. They'd lost to Michigan State before. You know, it's a heated rivalry. I get it. And in this, we see it on the MSU side. They beat a team. All the problems are solved. The world is wonderful. They lose to a team. Izzo sucks. He's lost it. It's time for him to go. You know, this is sort of.
Don't coach my team.
You know, I was having a conversation with somebody today. If Twitter existed years and years ago, like Izzo didn't deal with this when he didn't go to a Final Four between 2001 and 2005. He hadn't lost it back then. You know, Bo Schembechler, and I know there are other reasons that nobody talks Bo right now. But if Bo Schembechler had to deal with Twitter when he kept losing Rose Bowl after Rose Bowl after Rose Bowl, by 89, when he lost to Arizona State, people have been like, that's enough of Bo. Like, in the Twitter world, people speak their mind, it builds momentum, and nobody has any patience. And people lose perspective.
I forgot to play this.
Caution, you are about to enter the spin zone with noted newspaper columnist and radio host, Graham Couch.
You got to make us feel good, Graham.
So I'm not gonna charm you on last night.
No?
On the Michigan
Spin
State
that.
law. No, I can't. It's hard to do. I mean, there are some things I will say that can help people feel a little bit better than they probably do right now as they're listening. But I'm just saying, you know, the I think criticism of these coaches and teams from a micro perspective is warranted. I think it's the macro stuff, the big picture takes that happen after a single loss that get a little dramatic. But, you know,
but it's the way this team has been losing, though.
Well, and
right?
here's
like in one of my hot takes, we did on Monday or Sunday or whatever. I said, I'm not concerned about Purdue. I'm not going to take anything away from that. It's going to be about Michigan. And what did they do? They just didn't. Now, obviously, Michigan shot really well, 60% from the field and 3-point. But not show up at all, it just bums me out.
It's not that they didn't show up. And I think this is a misnomer. And part of it is the players don't know how to describe not being good enough.
Yeah, but you had Hunter Dickinson pointing at your bench, talking shit after every basket. Don't you guys have any heart whatsoever?
No.
I mean, come on, seriously. If we were on the playground or whatever, when you play the intramural shit, and a guy's talking shit every single time, it takes your coach to sit there and yell at him and have the ref stop it? I mean, come on. I'm not saying you have to hurt Hunter Dickinson, but you got to give him a little hard foul.
No doubt. No, I'm not saying that I'm not saying they have enough edge, that they have enough leadership. But the idea that they didn't bring it, the idea that they didn't have energy, that this is the thing.
Well, that's Izzo's thing, right?
But yeah, even the players are like, we didn't have enough energy today. We didn't have enough intensity. All that. That's bullshit mostly. That and when I lived in Kalamazoo a long time ago, by the way,
no kidding.
Covered Western Michigan. An old coach there once told me, Bill Cubitt, after Western Michigan lost to Northern Illinois, it was the Greg Jennings team losing to the Garrett Wolf team, like 42-7 in the season finale. And all the players afterwards, like, we just didn't match their intensity. And I talked to Cubitt afterwards. He's like, that's hogwash.
Language.
He just said, we're not as good as they are.
Right.
The problem is players don't like to admit, athletes don't like to admit that somebody is bigger, faster, stronger than them. They don't like to admit they're not good enough at something. So they use words like intensity and didn't bring it, didn't play hard enough. And while there are elements to that are true, because what the Michigan State players know is sometimes when they do play and do all those things and they play with an edge and they play hard, it is enough. And then sometimes whatever they do just isn't enough, so they must not be playing hard enough. I don't think they truly understand. It's hard to come to grips with the idea that, like, if you're a player, like, I'm just not as good as this guy, or we don't have a counter to this, or we don't have a star. Like, if you're Gabe Brown, it is hard to admit as a senior that I'm not at the level of these other top-tier guys who are in the Big Ten carrying their teams right now. So I think that's partly what happens. I think what happened last night, a couple things. One, I do think this team lacks edge at times. I do think they don't have enough jerk in them, right? Like I don't
think they have that at all. They've showed glimpses maybe twice.
It drives me insane.
All season.
Drives me insane. Absolutely insane, because it's gamesmanship is one of the best parts. The mental warfare of basketball is one of the best parts. It's part of the joy, even in a pickup game, tearing somebody down on the opposing team. If they're then on your team, building them back up, the confidence component. Yeah. And Michigan State doesn't play that game along with everybody else. To defend Michigan State last night, I do think, and I got into this a little bit in the quick takes, but then
bonus take?
No, but worked with was talking with our new writer Ryan Black, and he put together a real nice piece going into this data on the absence of A.J. Hoggard and what that meant. And he is so tied to their fortunes. I think that's the only thing, if you're a Michigan State fan right now, that you can take comfort in, is that he was clearly under the weather, bronchitis, strep throat was the thing Izzo alluded to. I don't know that to be 100% sure. I don't know what it was. Is a resident germaphobe. I would have, if I was on the team, I would have rented a car to go down to Columbus and not been on the team bus, nor would I wanted to share a basketball, but apparently...
but it's not COVID, though.
I don't care. I don't want what he's got.
Right.
I've never understood the sort of the casual attitude with germs that coaches and athletes use. And I get it. It's like a championship game. I get the Jordan flu game. What I don't want is the Jordan non-conference game where he's playing with the flu. Like, get the fuck away
right,
from
but
me.
they probably went, to AJ and said, hey, can you go tonight? And it's hard to say, no, coach, I can't with strep throat when you feel like you can, but when you get out there, you're terrible.
I don't blame AJ.
Yeah.
If I'm Gabe Brown, I walk up to coach and say, that dude is not touching the same basketball as me, nor is he breathing on me.
That's senior leadership?
Well, no, but if I'm an opponent and you breathe on me with strep throat, I'm going to throat punch you, and you know who's in the wrong? Your ass. I'm sorry. You don't come on the court and breathe on me if you're sick. You don't play. You don't play, period.
Boy, we need that kind of Graham Couch on the floor last night against Dickinson when he's pointing at the bench.
Oh, I could do nothing else at the Division I level, but I would freaking get in their heads and do. I would be I want to say Brad Davidson, but I would be a goon. Yeah, and I would talk a lot of trash. I mean, there are so many things I could. You give me a player and let me pick and get in their head, I would absolutely do it. Like, you asked me to get in Hunter Dickinson's head, I would just start talking about, dude, you're like a 34-year-old sophomore. What the fuck are you doing here?
You run like a weirdo.
What do you do? Yeah, I mean, I could taunt him easily and be just a total jackass and see if I get in his head. And that's not really a kind thing to do, but you're asking me what I would do if I was on the floor with him.
But that's basketball, though.
Absolutely.
It's to get into a player's head, like you said. That's what players did back in the day. I mean, is it the player now in 2022 just doesn't want to do that anymore? I'm just saying, I mean, I couldn't imagine. Watching that game, I was jumping up and down. Like, I just wanted to go into the game and hammer Hunter Dickinson.
I was taught back in the day.
Come on, what are we doing?
Taught back in the day by guys playing fairly high-level post defense. But I wasn't actually. No, I wasn't actually playing. I'm just saying this information was shared with me from guys who were playing at a higher level. You don't ever see anybody take their hand like a flat, not a punch, but with their hand out and hit somebody, the opposing team, in the kidney. That's how you play post defense if somebody's racking you up. You see how they do, and you don't see that anymore. But I'm not advocating kidney shots. I'm just saying, like, if somebody puts up 33, they're going to have to do it.
It's okay to put up 33, but it's when you're putting a basket in, after basket in, using marble and then pointing at the bench. I mean, I understand you're owning Michigan State right now.
I'm fine with him doing that. Michigan State's got to have a better reaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what he did was great. I mean, that was him having edge. That was him.
Yeah, but it got a little bit out of control though.
Maybe
after like the second time, like we get it. Like you're looking over at the bench every time. Like get it. I mean, it was an absolutely dominating game by Michigan. They shot really, really well, but I mean, just come on.
So here are the Hogard numbers. This is what's telling. So basically, in the last 12 games, going back to the road win by Michigan State at Wisconsin, right, which is now looks even better. They won by double digits at Wisconsin. But you go back that far, Michigan State's 5-7, beginning with that game in those 12. And really, Hogard has played well in 5 games. Not the 5 win. They're 4-1 in the games he's played well. And I think if you look at it, he played really well in the Illinois game. He played well at Wisconsin, home against Michigan, home against Indiana, home against Illinois, home against Purdue. And they won at Maryland despite shakiness, and so he didn't play as well there. And they lost Illinois despite him playing well. But in the 5 games he's played well, where MSU is 4-1, where MSU has looked like a good team for a lot, he has 40 assists and 10 turnovers. He's averaging 12.6 points. He's made 21 of 40 shots and gotten to the line 29 times, making 20. So he's shooting like 52%, 53%, 12.6 points. So if you go to, and he's averaging 8 assists and 2 turnovers. If you go to the other games where he has been off his game, or last night was just ill and was -7, Michigan State was -17. He was the worst of any player, plus minus, was Hogard last night. And we know that's not who he's traditionally been for them of late. In the other 7 games, he's got 28 assists and 10 turnovers. Not bad. It was still 3-1. He's been great as an assist to turnover guy for a while. That's still really good. But it's 4 assists a game, right? It's a lot. It's not as prolific. He's averaging 2.6 points per game in those 7 games. So he goes from 12.6 to 2.6. And he's made 7 of 34 shots in those 7 games, shooting 20%. So like so much, and you look at those games that he hasn't played well and what those games were and how poorly, and that includes the Iowa game, which I didn't think he was awful in when they got shelled on the road. But if you look at all the games Michigan State hasn't played well, almost all of them correlate to A.J. Hogard not playing well. And so he is the catalyst. Just last Saturday, they're playing Purdue, and Jaden Ivey, who's a lottery pick. I mean, here's Hogard talking trash, clapping in his face. Like, that's your edge. That's the guy you need. And he's too sick to really go. And so, again, I don't think that alone would have changed the night. But he changes their personality. He gives them a confidence. And he makes them a little bit different team. And they're still a team without a star. They're still, you can argue sometimes, like against Purdue, he and Walker together kind of create one star for them at times. But I don't know. To me, if you're looking for solace as a Michigan State fan, if you're looking for spin, it's that when he's healthy, you're not what you just were last night.
Right, but with a healthy Hogard, I just don't know if they beat Michigan anyway.
I don't think they
right.
do.
I mean, Michigan was shooting lights out, and you just can't beat any team like that. But I just the mentality of this team, I understand. Even when they shoot 60%, you still have to have a little fight in you. And I know these guys really want to win, and you can give me all of the side shit. Yes, they wanted to win, they wanted to play, and they hustle hard. But I just don't see any fight from this team. And what does that mean going forward, Graham? I mean, in the Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA tournament.
It's weird because some days they've had, and they used to have edge. They used to play with fight. I mean, that team.
Is that just at home or on the road? Have you seen fight on the road?
Yeah, well, they used to be a really good road team. They weren't even as good at home. For a while, they never got the feel-good home win. That's changed as I think they become more average and not as good as a team. They've relied more on the home crowd. But you go back to January when they went into Wisconsin and won by 12. That team had grit. That team turned the ball over like 4 times in 5 minutes, and yet you could see it. They were determined. They were hustling their ass back not to get beat on those turnovers. There was something to them, right? And they've lost that. They lost that last night. Marble didn't play with near the effectiveness and sort of pesteringness. And I also thought they probably didn't play. I mean, Bingham is, I think, a better matchup for Dickinson than Marble is in terms of giving him fits. And Bingham had more success last night, and they probably should have gone to him more. But still, I mean, Izzo said he'd never seen Marble play like that before. He just thought it was the least sort of giving effort he'd seen. And
well, the spin move Dickinson did and the dunk, I mean, that was, I've never, like you mentioned, Marble playing defense like that. He's a better player than that.
And then if, and Madi, I don't want Madi Sissoko to get a reputation as a goon, because he's starting to show some things that,
9 points.
Yeah, he's starting to show is that he could be a productive player the next 2-3 years for Michigan State. And so I don't want him to be viewed that way, but he's also their guy. You get in there against, use your fouls. You know what I mean? That's
use one on Dickinson.
Yeah.
Yeah, legend forever.
Not just setting a screen.
But speaking of minutes, I mean, Max Christie, 31 minutes. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter were talking about how Christie doesn't look like himself, and maybe he's just had too much. The season is worn down on him. And, I mean, it's hard to think, an 18-year-old kid, but like that. I mean, so what do you do with Max Christie going forward? Do you cut his minutes?
No, see, Christie, to me, it's all about, and I thought Christie actually played with confidence. He's not shooting the ball well, right? He doesn't have great strength yet. They went to him at the point guard position because they needed a break for Walker, was wearing down with Hogarth unable to go in the second half, and that was their best stretch of basketball, frankly. It was with him and Akins and Sissoko, and that was kind of weird. I think the thing you're hoping is they're playing a kid at Ohio State on Thursday night who is a freshman, has just gotten better and better and better, and he's not any bigger than Christie, really. I mean, built a team bit different, maybe a little more strength, and you're hoping at some point you burst through that wall, and you don't want less of him unless you truly think he's wearing down and like that's going to do you any good. The problem is, I don't know. I mean, what is 31 minutes a game too many? And what did he play last night? Maybe more. 31. Yeah.
Yep. But you still give him the most minutes on the court for a guy that doesn't. Well, I don't know. Just at times he doesn't seem confident.
And yesterday, often defensively, there's a reason for that. Is he's locked in. He's a good defender. He's long, all that stuff. But yesterday he did get locked. All those guys went under screens. They were giving up threes. I mean,
But that's just mental stuff. That's like the first 5 games of the season kind of stuff.
Right. No, there's no question. Last night was not only a loss of just toughness, it was a brain fart game.
Yeah.
And, the thing that I think's tough on people is this is a game that wasn't supposed to be played, right? It wasn't a game that was on the schedule. So think about this, though. If you just play Purdue, you're still – yeah, thank you. But if you just play Purdue, you're the same team you are, but you've got like 4 days off.
Yeah.
You play an Ohio State team that's struggling. And then maybe, you play
but then they would have fooled us, and then it would have happened somewhere down the line at maybe the Big Ten tournament. Right?
And the Michigan game was not the game that was an inconvenience. They had played 5 straight Saturday, Tuesday turnarounds. This is normal. The game where you might see fatigue set in is Thursday night at Ohio State, the one-day prep sort of deal. But
if you're telling me you can't get up to win Izzo to take over the record from Bobby Knight against Michigan in their own house with a lot of Michigan State fans there, I'm sorry. If you can't get up for a game, I don't know what game you're going to get up for.
No, this was as strong as I have heard Tom Izzo be about Michigan State's leadership issues. I mean, he was tough. He basically said that
got to blame it on something. There's only so much coach speak you can do.
Well, he's been trying all year not to say. He basically said he's disappointed in the junior and senior leadership, and he talked about Malik Hall specifically. And I didn't quote that particular part, but he was, he talked about the idea of some games Malik is this, and then other games he's this, and they don't have the personality or player right now to get them through this.
And I thought Malik Hall was going to be that guy maybe a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
I thought he had that in him. But, I mean, obviously things can change from week to week. I understand that. But Malik Hall just seems – and he could still be that guy. But right now, I have to say, no offense to these guys, I can't wait to not watch this team anymore.
I think there are a lot.
I really am.
I think there are a lot of people starting to feel like that.
I'll watch every game. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying. I just can't wait till the season's over and just be like, Jesus, thank you.
I think Tom Izzo might be among you.
We talked last night.
in an honest moment of commiserating, I tell you.
But that's all right. I mean, that's what happens.
So here's what I think is important, though, right? So if this is a 2-year group, like if you want, because the bottom line is the core of these guys are back next year. What I think is important at the end of this season, and you sometimes there is some, you can't have the same problems a year from now.
No.
And so what you have to do is you have to develop these personalities. And maybe it's the younger guys. Maybe it's the Jaden Akins, it's the Max Christies. It's guys who as freshmen, often don't feel like it's their place yet. And so they naturally fit into it. Because that's the one thing, Trey Holloman, who I think people really like as a leader in that program, the guy they've recruited out of Minneapolis, is a freshman as your third point guard. Like that guy's not going to be your lead. You know what I mean? Like even if he's natural at it. So you've got to find it within this particular roster. And maybe that's something Malik Hall develops more into. Maybe it's
someone has to develop into that, and you can't teach that though. Graham, you mentioned freshmen can't come in and do that. You have to. If you're going to be that guy, you want to be the guy, especially at point guard. You have to come in right away. I don't care what year you're in.
Well, Hogard,
and say this is my team.
Hogard gives you some of that just naturally. That's who he is, and he'll develop.
Maybe
more
him
more.
next year.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens is you don't necessarily have to everybody be naturally Draymond Green, but you do need people who get sick of certain things. That's what sweat equity is. You get sick of losing. You get sick of situations happening over and over. That's what's been sort of fascinating about this team. Sometimes sweat equity happens like, okay, that's enough of that shit. And you just as a team sort of get fed up and you start to be different. You start to value possessions. I think that happened to an extent with the point guards. The turnover storyline, I mean, people still bring it up, but it really hasn't been the story of this team in a while.
Yeah,
right?
10 last night?
Yeah, Hogard's been unbelievable assist to turnover, and Walker's been good enough, and he's played off the ball a lot, so he's in a different role now a lot of times too. So I those two guys figured it out, and the problem is personality-wise on this particular team. The big problem is your seniors aren't, and we've talked about this. Goes back to a column I wrote when they played at Illinois. Your seniors aren't quite good enough. And your underclassmen aren't quite there yet. And the guy who's in between that. So if you're is Malik Hall. So if you're Gabe Brown isn't good enough to carry you, so it's hard for him to lead. A guy like Marcus Bingham lost his starting spot. Hard for him to lead. That wasn't naturally who he is. The freshmen are figuring it out. Younger players figuring it out. I mean, Walker and Hogard, I mean, those guys have taken tremendous strides. The guy who was in the middle, and the guy I think we all thought going back to that Wisconsin game when he became their go-to guy, was Malik Hall. The guy who before the season talked about not wanting some of the things that happened last year. But he's not a natural in it. And he's a nice guy. And those are things that are
for this. Say that about Matt Shepard as well. A lot of fans of him.
That's tough. So, yeah, I mean, look.
So we're just moving on to next season then?
Well, no.
Is that what we're doing?
They're in the tournament.
There's no way they win tomorrow, right?
I think they need to get out of the Big Ten at this point. Not like leave the Big Ten. Michigan State's not leaving the Big Ten. I didn't mean like that. What I mean is I don't think anything great is going to happen this week or next week for Michigan State. They might beat Maryland at home. They ought to beat Maryland at home to close the season.
Must win.
I mean, it certainly if you want, especially with that senior group, you want to leave on a decent note out of your home building. I don't think I don't think the Big Ten tournament's going to be more than a 1-win type deal. But when they get out of this, when they're facing fresh teams and it's a new season, you're away from this conference that's beating them up and sort of beating them down mentally. Maybe that, because somebody asked me about do you see them as still a team that can get to a Sweet 16? Sweet 16s are not like I do not think this is a team that can make this is not a team like 2003 that made that surprise run to the Final Eight. I don't think this is a team like 2015 that really found it late in the year because we haven't seen that yet. Although that team really was the Big Ten tournament when you saw it, but I don't think that's it either. But to get to a Sweet 16 just takes 2 wins, and it really takes 1 upset. So is this team capable of a Sweet 16? Sure, because matchup-wise it could work. They could be a 7 and play a 2, and on the right day we've seen this Michigan State team beat a 2. The question is, can they beat that 10 seed in the first round? I have no idea.
Listen. I mean, Tom Izzo's the only reason why I can never say never with any kind of team Tom Izzo coaches. But I feel pretty confident in saying that this team is not going to a Sweet 16. I mean, you can almost say, can they bounce back from a loss like Michigan? I mean, what's going to happen tomorrow night? Are they going to bounce back tomorrow night and beat Ohio State at Ohio State?
We saw them bounce back from a crushing defeat at Iowa a week earlier. It's the same loss. I mean, they're a weird team.
Yeah, but that was at home.
That's true. That's true. We're gonna this will test their mental toughness, which they have not really passed of late. But when I'm talking about the tournament, it's a bit of a fresh thing. You're away from this. I mean, they were really good in the non-conference season against some pretty good teams. You're away from sort of the muck that you've been in a really brutal league with a lot. Here's the other thing that's hurt Michigan State this year. The Big Ten, as much as any year that I can remember since I've been covering it, certainly, is a league of stars. I mean, Johnny Davis, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, E.J. Liddell, Hunter. Everybody's got a guy. Everybody's got a guy. Michigan State doesn't have a guy. Like, there aren't a lot of teams like Michigan State that are like these teams trying to be collectives. And Michigan State doesn't always do it that well, but you know what I mean? It would help Michigan State if there were a few more of those teams.
I have to say that I was driving the other day and I had ESPN radio on, and the guy was giving the update, and he said Cockburn.
Nice.
It was obviously, and I actually cheered in the car. Like, yeah. Obviously, the guy doesn't watch college basketball.
So they get out all that. I could see them getting to a Sweet 16, and I'm telling you right now, for all the shit that's happened this year, for all the weird feelings people have about this team, they want to like this team. They're good guys. It's a frustrating team because of the way they started. It didn't look like it was going to be this sort of season. It looked like it was going to be a better season than this. For all of that, if this team, which is a 2-year group, gets to the Sweet 16, I think people will leave the season ready to be done with the team, but also satisfied. You know what I mean? Like, if they get to the Sweet 16, will you leave with a decent feeling about it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know if I would leave. I mean, it's been exhausting. A hell of a roller coaster. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if they're a completely different team, if they show fight and grit or something like that, something crazy could happen. Absolutely. I just don't see it happening. So, I mean, obviously, if they get there, yeah, I would be like, all right. But then it's like, well, why weren't you playing that way, in that game? So there's a lot of doubt in this team. So I just don't know. Yeah, if they made the Sweet 16, it wouldn't matter.
So if you're not sure if you can handle much more Michigan State basketball, but you kind of want to watch the games, let me tell you, Front 43 and Cask & Company is the place for you because a lot of TV's on. You can watch something else if things start to go wrong. Other college basketball games. There's lots of beer, tons of great beers on tap, amazing menu. You can distract yourself in a lot of ways, different conversation. But if the game winds up good, it's right in front of you. It's one of the best sports bar. First of all, Front 43 is the best sports bar setup I've ever seen. The whole, Cask & Company, if you're looking for a date night, is ideal as well. Just a great setup there, Front 43 and Cask & Company. We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll talk with Harry Gagnon and get into picking Michigan State, Ohio State, picking some of these other Big Ten games, and picking the Big Ten tournament. Couch in the Roof, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 and Cask & Company.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Skymint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Skymint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Skymint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan and use the promo code code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Sky Mint Cannabis. You'll love this place.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. It is time now for our Pick the Game segment, brought to you by our friends at Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook. Download the app today, pick the games with us. And with that, we bring on our good friend and the great one, Harry Gagnon, from Against All Odds, Best Bet Corner, extrapoints.com. Harry, how you doing, man?
What's up, guys? How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Where are you at? Where are you at this week? Are you in Hawaii? Where are we doing the show from?
I'm in Phoenix. I'm in Scottsdale. By the way, guys, I don't want to rub it in or anything, but it happened to be 90 today.
That's not rubbing it in. That's miserable.
See, yeah, Graham likes the cold weather. I, on the other hand, love the 90.
You are not svelte either, Harry. Like, I don't understand how you like this weather.
Listen again. I grew up on Lake Ontario, so I've had enough of the snow, enough of the cold weather. I love it here in Arizona.
You can always put on more clothes. You can only get so naked appropriately, although you take it to pretty far extremes on that. But I am not one for the heat. I do not like being uncomfortable. Wow. I do not like not smelling good. I don't like sweating around the opposite sex. I don't like any of that stuff.
Wow.
So he never has sex.
Else.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
So unless it's quick, unless it's really quick.
And in an igloo. That's
wow.
All right, and with that, let's talk hockey. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's get into some college hoops here. Before you've got some interesting stuff that I want to get into in terms of who will make the field and odds to win the Big Ten tourney and whatnot. But I want to start with Michigan State at Ohio State Thursday night in a game that looks like the line's going to be about 5.5 for Ohio State. This is a weird game. Like, again, Michigan State has become a complete stay away most of the time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while there's an opportunity to make money on the opponent but the thing that makes me nervous here, one, it's unclear whether AJ Hoggard is going to be available for Michigan State, and that I think hurt them against Michigan on Tuesday night. But Ohio State's not in great form either. They were really good for about 5 games, and a week ago they beat Illinois on the road, and now they've lost, back-to-back to Maryland and now Nebraska, and they're banged up. They've got a guy who's out with an ankle sprain. They've got a guy who's a little under the weather. They don't look that good either. To me, this is a stay away, but if I had to pick it, I'm going to take the team that's been in better form more often of late. I'm going to go with Ohio State, even with the 5.5. Jason, where are you on this?
Yeah, if that line that you said 5.5 stays true, I mean, Michigan State to me is a team that's just dead. And if you go on the road in the Big Ten and you're actually playing well, you still lose on the road. So give me Ohio State. 5.5 seems a little heavy. I'm kind of with you, Graham. Kind of a stay away, but I'm going to take Ohio State given the 5 and a hook. What do you got, Harry?
Yeah, I'm with you guys dead on here. I mean, these teams, you just don't know what you're going to see from game to game. Michigan State, you guys went. They rolled Iowa and Iowa City, and knock off, or they get rolled by Iowa and Iowa City, and they knock off the number 4 at the time, Purdue, then get annihilated in Ann Arbor. And Ohio State, like you mentioned, Grant, covered a couple of weeks ago. They covered in overtime. They were not covering against Indiana. Tough game there. They pulled it out and covered the game. Then win in Illinois. Then lose, like you said, Maryland to a very bad Nebraska team. I don't like this game either. I'd stay away, but if I had to pick it, maybe the best player on the court is E.J. Liddell, who got 27 and 14 in that game against Nebraska. Maybe he just takes control late. I'm going to side here with Ohio State, but I don't love it either.
Yeah, they've got a dude, and that's just about everybody Michigan State plays these days has like an elite player at the college level.
Or they turn into an elite player for one game.
Who is that?
I'm just saying there's always one guy that scores like 15 points. They're like, man, he's season average is like 5.5 points.
Right. No, that does seem to happen
every time.
The other game that's Thursday night, Iowa, Michigan in Ann Arbor, that I think is going to be a pick'em. That's about where I'm guessing. Ken Palm has Iowa as a 1-point win. I think Vegas will take it as a pick'em here. But this is interesting. Iowa's playing as well as anybody. Michigan still, I think, needs one more win to punch its ticket, and it's got 2 tough games, Iowa and at Ohio State, depending on what Ohio State is, and assuming they get back to decent form. I like Michigan here. I just do.
Money line?
Well, it's going to be a pick'em. So
I think so.
Yeah, about
really
at home. Yeah, it's a pick'em with Iowa. What do you think? Iowa's going to be favored?
No. It might be. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I like Iowa in this game.
I know. I think Hunter Dickinson's a problem for Iowa. I think that's a matchup. And look,
is Julius Marble on Iowa?
Well, but Michigan won at Iowa, and that was the last time Iowa didn't play really well. I mean, I think just from a matchup standpoint, this to me, is very much what was that score at Iowa? That was make sure I'm not missing that. It was
86-80, something like that.
Yeah, 84-79, right? On February 17th. And Iowa hasn't lost since, but give me Michigan. Jason, you disagree?
Yeah, I just think that Michigan's not going to shoot as well as they did against Michigan State. And obviously, Hunter Dickinson, I don't think will. I mean, he might have the same kind of game, but I think Iowa scores a lot of points, and you have to bank on Michigan shooting well again, and I just don't buy it. So
There's no doubt that's a little more of a keep pace game for Michigan, but I think they will, and they've got matchups that I like. Where are you on this, Harry?
Yeah, it's just like the Michigan State and Ohio State's Michigan team. You just don't know what you're getting. The last 7 games, guys, I was checking this out. They won, they lost, they won, they lost, they won, they lost, they won. So by that, you would think they'd go with a loss here. But one of those wins, like you mentioned, Graham, 2 weeks ago in Iowa, and Dickinson, I love him. I love the way he plays down low. He's getting a lot stronger from last year, coming off that 33-point performance against the Spartans. I'm leaning towards the Wolverines here.
All right, so there are some other things that are going on in the world of college basketball. Decent things to start to pick. One is a prop that Harry, you brought up here. Will Indiana make the field of 68? And they're playing Rutgers as we speak. That'll determine a little of this. But yes is minus 150, no plus 115. Harry, you're leaning no. They're right on the bubble right now, right on the edge. I know they get to play the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. I don't love this Indiana team in Indianapolis either. And for the juice, give me the no. Jason, you agree with that?
I mean, the no has a little bit of value, right? Because if you think that they're going to make it, obviously there's no value. And if Harry says that he's going to say no, I guess I have to go no as well.
Why are you no, Harry?
Convince me.
I like no because a lot of times they say it's how you play down the stretch. They're 2-5 in their last 7. Their best wins of the season were home against Ohio State and Purdue. But Purdue really lately, if you look at their road games, they haven't been that impressive lately on the road. I love Tracy Jackson Davis, but the 9-9 in conference. They did their best non-conference win was against Notre Dame on a neutral court. I'm just leaning a little bit here towards the no, just because aside from Jackson Davis, they don't have a heck of a lot of great players.
No, they don't. Frankly, he hasn't gotten. I mean, he doesn't always tear it up.
Mm-hmm.
He's a talented dude, and they've got Rutgers and Purdue. I mean, they're gonna have to do something at the Big Ten tournament. I think to get in. Odds to win the Big Ten tournament. These are out. These are great. Purdue right now plus 190. Illinois plus 300. Iowa plus 460. Wisconsin plus 850. You're talking about the Big Ten champs. You can get it plus 850 to win the Big Ten tournament. That tells you about what people think of Wisconsin still. There's value in Michigan, though. Michigan 20-1. MSU is not going to win it, 25-1. Michigan probably not. But 20-1, I find value in Michigan. I find some value in Iowa. I don't know what to make of Illinois. I think they wanted the regular season title this year, and I'm even wondering about them against Ohio State, where their heads are. I think the fact that they're not going to be able to get a share of that thanks to Purdue losing to Wisconsin will be I think there's value on all of these teams a little bit. You can't play them all, I don't think, and win. But I don't know. Is there anybody, Harry, that you really like?
I'm leaning towards the Wisconsin, the Badgers at that plus 850 number. I think that's great value. They've won 16 of the last 19, 5 in a row. 7 of the last 8 games, they've held their opponents to under 70, back playing that defense that they're known for. And I know Johnny Davis didn't have a great game last night against Purdue, but he's averaging 20 and 80. He had a great game first time go around against the Boilermakers. I just think at plus 850, give me the Badgers. I mean, even if they get to the championship game, maybe against Purdue or in Illinois, you can hedge off a little bit.
Absolutely. No, it's true because they're going to have a double bye. And, there's some once this bracket comes out, it'll get very interesting to see how quickly the odds fluctuate. But I like a lot of it's one of those.
I almost can't believe it's plus 850. That seems really high.
I thought it was a mistake when you sent those over, Harry.
Yeah.
Even Michigan at 20-1 seems a little high. I mean, it doesn't seem that far-fetched that something like that could happen for those odds.
Right, so there's no value on Purdue or Illinois, so might as well sprinkle on some.
Unless you really like them, plus 190 is not bad. Plus 300. I think those are the best 2 teams still in the Big Ten, and so although Wisconsin would argue otherwise, the way they're.
But would you lay 100 for plus 190 on Purdue?
No.
I just don't see any value in that.
No, I would. Plus 300, I'd be tempted on Illinois a little bit. Sure. But that's.
So you also mentioned Iowa's been on a run themselves here since that last Michigan game. So plus 460, maybe something to look at as well.
No, I'm trying to do the math quickly in my head to see if I can take all of these and make money and just hammer it, but I don't think so. Or sometimes you can come close to it if you just leave one team out and then you're sweating that one team. But I don't think this is I don't think it computes. All right, West Coast Conference odds, and this is an early tournament, right? It begins this weekend. Gonzaga, can they get tripped up? Right, that's the question. Minus 390 on Gonzaga. Like if you really believe in them, St. Mary's beat them in that little bandbox that St. Mary's plays in. St. Mary's plus 500, Santa Clara plus 1,400, San Francisco 30-1. 30-1 is still. I mean, because all it takes. What's weird is you got to look at the side of the bracket. If somebody upsets Gonzaga, and I don't think it's going to happen, then all of these things are great odds, right? It's like sort of like taking the Coastal. It's like me taking Pitt in the Coastal in college football. If somehow something happens or a team doesn't wind up as good like it happened there, you've got great value. The value's good enough that I'd sprinkle, and I wouldn't put any money on the Zags, but I don't know. What are you going to do here, Harry?
Well, look, you guys know college basketball. Fantastic. This is the best season the West Coast Conference has had that I can ever recall. These teams are good. Santa Clara is good this year too. St. Mary's fantastic. What St. Mary's did, I think they're 25-6. What they did to Gonzaga, they held them to 36% shooting. Drew Timme, which is 2 for 10 from the field, had just 6 points. Gales might be able to do this again. Of course, we still got to lean towards the Zags here, but like you said, if someone can trip up somebody here and it works out, maybe Santa Clara at 14-1, who played Gonzaga pretty tough too, might be a play. But St. Mary's is fantastic. I don't know about the tournament here because they just beat them, but St. Mary's, the Gales might be a team to look at once the tournament brackets come out to make a run as well.
No, that's interesting. And you kind of like Florida at home versus Kentucky on Saturday, correct, as well?
Well, I kind of do just because Kentucky, look, I mean, we've seen these teams look great during their weekday games, and then on the weekend sometimes tank, especially when they go on the road after just winning a big game at home in the middle of the week in conference play. Florida's 19-11. They really need this because they're on the outside looking into the tournament because they haven't really won too many big games this season. They did beat Auburn about a week and a half ago at home, came from behind to pull that one out. And especially with Kentucky looking as good as they did and have been, this is a game where maybe people might take Kentucky here, but I think Florida maybe if you're going to get 3.5, 4 points here, maybe the Gators is the play because they need this game badly.
All right, Harry, I want to get your opinion on something before we let you go here. I've got a couple soccer deals.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell Jason about this because I was worried.
See you later. Have a good one.
I worried he would cut me off. But okay. So FA Cup Thursday afternoon. Everton hosting Boreham Wood, who's in the 5th division, like the 5th division, the National League. They're like down there with my dad's old club in Torquay United. They had a great game against, I think it was, I can't remember who they beat in the championship to get there. Everton's not that great, but Everton is home, -2.5, getting +111 juice. I don't know. To me, I think Everton. I think they're finally going to run into somebody that's just a little bit too high a class for them, and I think Everton. I know Everton's in a little bit of a relegation concern and all that stuff, but I like Everton in this spot weirdly, at home and sort of playing for the FA Cup, and then I love Liverpool at home this weekend against West Ham United, -1.5. Liverpool, which is just, rested a lot of guys in the FA Cup midweek, won the Carabao Cup last weekend against Chelsea in extra time. They can smell that they're close enough to catch Man City in the Premier League. They're not letting up. West Ham beat them last time. It's at Liverpool, -1.5, -111. Love it. I'm wondering what you think of those two.
Well, I'm surprised you're going against your West Ham here.
I love Liverpool too. Yeah, I'm big on Liverpool.
And why? And the Everton against the Boreham Wood. Why did Jason just text me? Did he say Boring Wood? Or did he say Boring? No, I'm just joking. Look, I don't know. To be honest, I've never heard of this Boreham Wood. I've never heard of them.
I watched their last game because they were in another game they had no business winning and they won. So they've become a great story. They're like 5th division, deep into the FA Cup. But still, I think this
Are they in the same league as the Hot Boys?
Young Boys.
Young
That's
Boys.
Different country.
Young Boys.
Different country.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, nice try.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm going to root for you, Graham, but I will tell you this. Like, you guys know, at the beginning on Mondays of our Against the Odds podcast, me and the guys go over our worst bad beat of the week. And Sal's, by the way, this past week, Graham, was the Chelsea Liverpool, where he needed at -1,400, I believe he had, that somebody would score in that match.
And was that not one of the best scoreless matches you've ever seen, though? It was thrilling.
That's exactly what he was saying. He said there was like 35 shots.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And it was the fact that a couple goals called off. I mean, it was one of the most exciting. It should have been like 3-3. It was exhilarating. But and Jason kept texting me during the match, like, "Holy crap, I love soccer now!" And nobody scored. Harry, you are a beautiful man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Harry.
You guys are the best. Take care, guys. See ya.
That's the great Harry Gagnon from the Against All Odds podcast with Cousin Sal, bestbetcorner.com, and extrapoints.com. And that is our Pick the Game segment presented by our friends at Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook. Anything you really like that you heard from him that makes you think? I
tell you what, this Big Ten tournament, I don't know what to do. If these numbers are true when he's sending them over, and it's 8.5 for Wisconsin, like you said, Big Ten probably outright champions, right?
Yeah.
At 8.5 to 1, I understand neutral court and all that stuff, but if you're going to get those kind of odds, like we always talk about, Graham, it's like value.
Yes.
Like, what are you going to get value-wise out of it? Even Purdue, if Purdue's a lock to you, plus 190 is a good number then. If you think it's a lock, a kneecap or lock.
No, and
deep it down in your heart. But me, I don't see that. So I see 8.5 to 1 on Wisconsin as a deal.
I think there's value on Michigan. I think there's value on Wisconsin. I think there's value on Iowa. And I think there's value on Illinois based on those numbers. And it's all who you like. But, no, great stuff from Harry. We appreciate you listening. We will do our next show on Friday afternoon for our live listeners. When I get back from Columbus, we'll do our Twitter question, Groovy Donut Friday show. We appreciate you. We appreciate Firekeepers. We appreciate our friends at Skymint, of course, who help us get through every long damn day. And also, thanks to Front 43 and Cask & Company. Again, you can win a trip to Vegas if you go to Front 43 or Cask & Company and have lunch between 11 and 3 any weekday. And just fill out the when they bring the little tablet around, fill out your phone number. You're automatically registered. You're going to love the menu. You'll love the beer selection. You probably already know the place. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.